My guest today, Sean Welsh of the SOS Vet SOS podcast. Sean, how are you? And you know what? And we're talking transitions, but today we're going to talk veteran mental health and the importance of mental health, and especially what veterans go through their process is so much different, than the average civilian and some of the things that you've
Oh, yeah.
witnessed in your career.
I'm doing great, Neil. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, the mental piece and the physical health piece, those are so important for veterans because when you're in the service, every day you're doing some sort of physical training. You're staying in shape. You're doing these things to take care of your body and be able to conduct the mission you have assigned. But after you get out, whether you retire, just transition, you know, you easily could give up any kind of physical activity, and that's just going to, in the long run, hurt you. There's a saying, that a parked car rusts, and it always sort of kept that in mind. If you're not, taking care of yourself after you get out of the military, things are going to start to break down on you.
Right. And what do you think there's enough in transition to really prepare people mental health wise of leaving the military to go to civilian life?
Yes and no. I would say in the direct transition programs you have to go through, there's not so much on that, but the resources are there. There's not as much of a focus, but there's always a reminder to, hey, make sure you take care of yourself. But there are a ton of resources available to help veterans with their mental struggles, their mental health, making sure that they're staying sharp, making sure they're dealing with problems. And part of that also is finding a new group to hang out with, your tribe, as they call it. Finding that group that you fit in with, and it very well could be a group of veterans, could be your church, could be anything, but finding that group that you can really relate to and share those problems with and help, work through it.
Yeah, definitely, most definitely. And what kinds of things did you do? So we never talked about your background in the military. Did you go through any horrific type of experiences?
I don't know that I went through any horrific experiences. I've deployed several times between Iraq and Afghanistan, and lost battle buddies there, and that takes a toll on you as well. Personally, I was an intelligence analyst, so the term FOBIT comes into mind a lot when you talk about intel guys. I stayed on the base most of the time doing whatever job I was assigned, but um, you know, just being there and uh, dealing with the different things that happen on base, whether it's mortar attacks, rockets, things like that, those can have an impact. But then also, the loss of friends can have an impact, and seeing what other people go through can also impact you. And the one thing that definitely happens in a deployment zone is you all build this bond that is just an amazing bond because you all go through it together, regardless of what the situation is. And that's one of those things that I think really impacts people when they leave the military is that bond isn't there anymore necessarily, and you have to try to find something else or a new group of people. And but the one thing that I do know for a fact, and most people should probably attest to this, is that bond is never broken. I could go
No
years
doubt.
without talking to somebody and then reach out, and it's like we were just there yesterday.
You think so it's a great point you talk about the intelligence because I was watching, I forget which film on Netflix just came out that really talked about the whole intelligence side of the business. I forget, it'll come to me in a second. Isn't that terrible? But really it was interesting watching that movie to see like your friends that died in battle were the ones potentially you were directing intelligence. Then you hang out with them after that fact, or they could be in the, I don't know how it works, but you have people that you're always in communication with on the battlefield, and you end up being part of that process and that pain. Well, that doesn't go away because of that family and all those things. So you have to constantly be on the lookout. Am I how am I dealing with this? Is certain things triggering me from the experience? And there aren't enough resources out there. And I think when you're talking about in the transition, there's a good friend of mine who's a client of mine, David Hollenbach, Hollenbach Leadership. And he was in the military. Then he was a high level in the fire department and executive type. And he basically went through PTSD with the fire department and the challenges and addiction and going through all these things, and he overcame and made it through. But still, there are days.
Oh, yeah.
PTSD is just something that I don't know how many percent of veterans have PTSD, but these are things that have to be shown and really work with people, because PTSD can lead to serious mental illness down the line, especially if they're self-medicating, and then you end up homeless. So that's your mission, right? To go ahead and make sure that these transitions for vets are better.
That's definitely a piece of it, right? And during transition, we start to see a lot of, the PTSD effects start to take place, especially as people are looking at the unknown of what the future holds. And there's definitely the self-medication piece. There's the addiction to different things that plays in there. And I'm not a medical professional or anything like that. I don't even pretend to understand how everything works, especially when it comes to the brain. But I used to call it short-term PTSD. So like the first deployment I went on, we got a lot of rocket attacks. And so most of my buddies, including myself, we were really jumpy every time there was a loud noise. And that lasted about a month or two and then kind of wore off over time. And,
That's good.
I don't know exactly what that is. I just, that's what I had called it. But there are people who, are continuously stuck in situations that they went through. And I just pray that they continue to reach out and, seek out the resources they need to help them. And that's one of the things we do talk about on the show. And we've brought in some experts to do some great things with people who struggle with PTS, and they've had some great results helping these people. So hopefully they continue to get those resources and get the help they need.
Wonderful. And what do you do as self-care for yourself going through, as a veteran?
So that one is trying to find groups that I can associate with. Finding those people that I can have those honest conversations with. And I've met some great people here in Jacksonville where I retired from the military, and just I can have those open conversations with them. They understand where I'm coming from. Communication with my family. I struggle every day with different things, and making sure that my kids know what's going on. My wife knows what's going on, and because my wife knows me better than I know myself. She's been with me the entire career and before. So having her by my side to say, hey, something's off. You need to do something.
Yeah.
I've talked to counselors, through the VA and local stuff, and just trying to find something each day to help you deal with anything you may be dealing with. And to me, that's the key.
All right. Best place people can go right now. You have a lot of social media that people can follow you, but you can go to your website, right?
Absolutely. VetSOSpodcast.com is the best place. You can get to all the social media. You can get to all the podcast platforms and the YouTube channel. Everything's right off of there.
All right. You're listening.